You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for the show. And you know what it means. Monday, Visions. Where's the alcohol? All right. All right.
We
so
have
I
our
guess...
usual crewmates.
Yeah, well, and as you guys probably also may have noticed, which is a fact that I forgot to mention until toward the end of Friday's show, is this isn't actually live. And in fact, this coming Friday probably won't be live either. But instead of doing the irresponsible thing that we've done, where we just blow it off and don't have a show, we thought, hey, let's pre-record this stuff. Plus, I mean, we can't go a week without Visions.
Yes,
you could, but but it would be hard pressed. But this, all right. So usually the way that this works when we do the Visions thing is we basically talk about some of our overall thoughts, and of course we do the big reveal on whether or not you liked it or not, and then we really start to get into it. So on this one, I thought it was another actually good episode. I don't know if I liked it as much as the last one, but I think I liked it a little bit more than the previous one. But for me, I think that they're on a streak of, they're giving us a little bit of context. The animation, of course, is always amazing, even on the bad ones. And I don't know. I mean, I thought that the story was really cool. It was a little bit more on the surreal side, you know, but that was to be expected. Now, unlike usual, I don't know if you bothered to look this up or not. We usually actually give a little bit of background in the animation studio, like where they're from and all that stuff. I did not do that this time. But, all right, let's hear it. What do you got?
It was cool in some areas, and then other areas it kind of like lost me. I guess overall the context of some things were cool. The whole Sith, or the whole mechanic thing with the stones and the whole statue thing, I was kind of wondering, like, how does that apply to the mechanic versus, like, shouldn't that be more the Jedi thing? So it was a little weird. And then the fact that, like, you know, it seemed like she was approaching the council, almost like the Jedi Council in a way. And I don't know, some things just didn't, in canon, I guess, you know, I mean, I get it, like, this is not a canon thing per se, but it's even I guess you want to say the structure of what we know as Star Wars, they tried to keep it, but then they broke the rules at the same time, so it was kind of weird. But animation wise, I mean, I thought some of the fight scenes were cool. I like those. The Sith Lord kind of looked like Revan a little bit.
Yeah,
so
I thought so too.
That's what I thought it was at first. I was like, wow, did they bring Revan into this?
And he was cool. He was like the most laid back, chilled Sith Lord I think I'd ever seen.
Exactly.
I mean, like, he's the type of guy that, I mean, if he was reading me a book on tape or something, you know, like an audio book, I'm like, he just kind of had a whole laid back, you know, type of vibe going, relaxing almost. The thing.
Well, and that was what makes him cool, because it's like you almost want to listen to him because he's not so tyrannical or anything like that. He's not so, you know, I'm going to, you know, destroy you and everything. Like, he's just kind of like, look, man, you know, come on over to the dark side. I'll show you kind of
something Glover. Right. Something Glover. It's a dude. He played the bad guy in Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, but he was the really smooth ATST operator in Empire Strikes Back. You know, the shield to be down in moments. You may start your landing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the same guy?
Same guy. Same guy. Yep. Wow. And he's been in a million other things, too. His name is something Glover. I don't know. For some reason, and I mean, I wasn't going to bring him up, but so I didn't research him. But yeah, that's sort of the same temperament and vibe that the Sith Lord gave me. You know, he was just kind of cruising through. Everything's
Yeah,
cool, he doesn't get rattled or anything like that. Like you said, he wasn't super tyrannical or dark or evil. He was just, yeah, man, you need to come to the I mean, he was just very soothing almost in a lot of
yeah,
his
he's on.
delivery. You didn't even though
Yeah,
he was killing that Jedi's master or whatever, you could almost
yeah,
let that go because he was just so cool. He just seemed like, he's very matter of fact. He had that whole like little scorpion tail thing or whatever that he was doing.
yeah. That's who reminded me of Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. The
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
get over, that's what it kind of reminded me of too, which I thought that was interesting because he had like that and a lightsaber. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, then they did the typical Star Wars story trope where some Sith Lord kills his master. Now he wants to avenge the master, and um, and of course he's kind of like toying with him. So, I mean, like I said, those things were cool. Um, Even the whole disregard for him as a Jedi, like, she's like, oh, they sent the kid. Oh, great,
Yeah, there was a lot
And
of
he was,
really funny moments and a cool dynamic. And that's the thing. I mean, when you get into it, I can understand what you're saying because I had some of the same issues. They didn't bother me that much because, it's Visions. I mean, if it was
yeah,
the Clone Wars or something
yeah,
like that, some
exactly, and
other
that's why,
canonical thing,
yeah,
right. But with this, I understood and I actually thought it was a cool concept. I really like the idea of this. The only thing that was kind of weird was, yeah, she was a mechanic, but she was also like part of this group that was really more record keepers of everything that was
hmm
going on. Like they didn't get it. And I thought that was a really interesting concept that I would have liked to have learned a little bit more about. And that is, even that old wives and master said, it's like, listen, these like heads and stuff like form this
hmm
stuff on these stones and they give us a
yeah,
glimpse and we just sort of look at everything around us and we're not getting involved in the fight. We're record keepers is basically what it is. It's not our job to get involved. We just write it all down. And
hmm
they had volumes and volumes. And that I actually thought was intriguing. And that's probably why some of this stuff didn't bother me as bad, is because they came up with some very different concepts, but not like different in the sense of, oh, that's really weird or anything. Like some of the stuff we saw in season 1 where it was just like really out there and it wasn't very Star
hmm
Wars-ish. This
yeah,
seemed like it was
yeah. It
Star
has some roots
Wars-ish.
in Star Wars.
Exactly. Well, or you could even go on to say it had roots in the things that influenced Star Wars. And so
Yeah,
that
that's
was,
true.
that's one of the things that I thought was a really cool concept. And I like the fact that, she, of course, is going up against the master going, look, let's just take out this dark side head and we're good, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Like, how
you
hard
know,
could it be?
yeah, I mean, let's just do that as if nobody else in the world had ever thought of it before this little pipsqueak. But, she was determined. And then he was like,
Yeah.
okay, but a Jedi's got to go with you. And I thought it was, she goes and, against the thing and approaches the council. And that's when the council basically says that. And it didn't even bother me that, because I know what you mean. It's sort of like, okay, well, if you're going to look at this from a canon perspective, where does this council fit in with the proper council that we all know and love?
hmm
But the couple of things that you got to look at is we're not really sure where in the time period this would fall. Again, a lot of Visions is all outside canon, but if you had to put it in an era, it may not it may be even before the High Republic. It might be between the Old Republic and High Republic. That's sort of the somewhat of the vibe I got from this thing.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely could see that. Like, there's that, I guess, a transitional space, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that. Um,
Or between the High Republic and, the Phantom Menace or something.
yeah, but then you probably still have to deal with Yoda, and so with him, so I think
True.
the original one, I think it would still be
Yeah.
between the Old Republic and the High Republic. If that's what this will land. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I mean, like I said, some of the animation. was sweet. It did capture my attention at times. Um, like I said, the saber battles were cool. Um, the overall story, it's like, okay, you kind of have two different people who have two distinct separate missions. So you have this one young lady, she's trying to, take off the head of this statue, and then this other young Jedi is really just trying to avenge his master's, death. And the other master is really trying to, you see him having visions of what happened and everything. So we got some exposition on that a little bit. So that was cool. But they both kind of were um on their they had to go to the same place, but they had two different um motivations. I think that's the best word.
Oh yeah,
Um
yeah,
but I
yeah,
did
yeah.
like the statues, because it's like you couldn't tell which one was the light, which one was the
Right.
dark,
It was
and they
kind of
kind of were
mixed up. Yeah,
intertwined. Yeah, and that's
yeah.
when she realized, like, oh, and he was like, he kept on like, I told you, like, it doesn't matter, like, which one do you take off, because that's what the force is. It's light and dark. You can't get rid of one without the other. So I like that aspect too.
Well, I also like the fact, and again, that's what you're bringing up is pretty much, yeah. They're both going on this mission, but they have very different reasons for it, and their
Hmm.
respective masters, knowing this, put them on that. Because obviously the only way that she was going to learn that this is kind of a pointless exercise is if she actually sees it for herself and understands it in a way that if somebody just told her, I don't think that she would either believe it, or she did
Or
believe it, she
accept it.
wouldn't, yeah, she wouldn't either accept it or maybe fully internalize and understand it. And where the young Jedi needed to learn something was, of course, he was full of fear and full of everything because of what happened. And it was the classic Star Wars, you have to face
Your
the enemy that
fears.
is essentially the source of your fears and all this other stuff, and really kind of learn and understand and not be a prisoner of your fears, or even a sense of vengeance or something like that. So I thought they handled that really well, and that they gave us a really good dynamic between the young Jedi and her, and even the way that the Sith behaved in this one. Like I said, it was different. It was still within the Star Wars context, but it was very different as far as, how they went about it. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about this too, which is what I've really, I think, have grown to like and hope that this continues on for the rest of these episodes, is that it's not necessarily having to tell you where it fits in and what era and all that stuff. Whenever we would talk about context, we're just saying, look, where where does this fall in the actual storyline? What's going on?
Hmm.
Don't just put us in the middle of something and we have no idea. You're spending most of the episode just trying to figure out what's going on. You're not really enjoying it at that point, and the
Right.
last two or three, well, three, if you count this one, have done a really good job of giving us the context of the world that we're in and the story that's taking place. So I think that's been really good.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think this was a decent episode. It wasn't um it kind of hangs in the middle for me, like almost
I
like the
could see
last
that.
one. So,
I could
you
see
know,
that. I could see where it's not something that maybe, you're like, "Oh, this is incredible," or whatever, or especially for Visions, because
hmm.
Visions doesn't have to hit the mark too high in order for you to give it high praise, because you're expecting it to be horrible. So
Right. It
it's
just
almost
happens to
like
not
it.
suck.
Right, right. So it's kind of like if it's like a good, what in any other series would be a really good episode, you'd just be like, "Whoa, man, this is incredible!" Because it's just overshooting your expectations by so much. But I could definitely understand, because that's sort of where it falls in for me too. Like the last episode was really compelling, really emotional. It had my attention the whole time. This one, I was engaged, but I was slightly tuning in and out at certain points. But I liked it, though. I thought it was good, and I really enjoyed a lot of the story elements to it, too.
Yeah. I think if I had to rate this would be a solid 5.5 for me.
Well, this actually gets into something that's interesting to me because, and I don't even know if we addressed this last year when we did season 1, but that's probably because Visions was really new to us and we were trying to just figure out what it was, and it wasn't until it got to the final episode that in totality you can look at it. Because remember, I mean, these things are dropped all at once. We're watching them one at a time, but anybody else who's been interested in this has probably just watched them all by now. They're only like 15, 20 minutes long. And this is actually, I think this is the longest one of the season. It clocked in at 21. I noticed the rest of them are like 18, 19, something like that. But my question, though, is you're not going to necessarily give Visions like a 9 or a 10. At least I don't think so, because, well, now you're going to say, what? I like this as much as Empire Strikes Back? I don't think so, right? But the question is, would you, or is there say a 7 for Visions, like a 10 for anything? You know what I mean? It's like, how are you...
How am I ranking?
Yeah, how are you ranking this stuff?
That's a fair question. I think, and I do take into consideration it's almost like, okay, I look at like a kid. No, I mean, it's like I look like a fifth grader, right? Like for fifth grade work, this is a 10. I'm
or
not
like if they're making a pot or whatever, it's kind of like, all right, man, for a fifth grader making this pot, it's amazing
good for somebody that age. But I'm not going to compare it to like some college student who's going to school for ceramics or something like that. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So I keep things in perspective. So yeah, I'm giving it a 5 based on what Visions.
Okay, but I mean, what then? Because a normal scale of 1 to 10, that would be for a professional or a college student. What's the fifth grade version of a 10?
Well, I mean, a 10 is still a 10. It's just like I'm doing it based upon. So for Visions, I mean, I just felt like,
okay. So in other words,
if Vision does something that wows me, I'm like, wow, I would give it a 10, because it's like, for this, it's like you just exceeded all expectations of what I thought it would be. Yeah.
All right. So like a Visions 10 is not an Empire Strikes Back 10.
No, not by any stretch of the
Well, I just want to get this out of the way, because this is,
no, I mean, but that's
we're over halfway.
Though.
We're over halfway into this thing now. So it's important. We probably should have established this maybe last year. Well, not last year, because like I said, we didn't really know what we were getting into last year. Right. The sad part was we knew exactly what we were getting into this year.
Yes.
The most horrifying announcement that Lucasfilm made was Star Wars Visions Season 2.
Season 2.
Because actually, both of us did not think that was going to happen. I remember that.
At all, man. I'm like, really? People are clamoring for this?
Well, I don't remember if you said this during one of our other shows or if it was in the... One of these days, I got to rewatch our Season 1 Vision stuff, because we were just like completely dumbfounded by what we saw every week. Man. It was funny, but
Jesus Christ.
But what amazes me, I think you might have said it during another show though, where I remember just thinking out loud during the show, well, will there be a season 2 of this thing? And you're like, oh, no way. Because that would imply that enough people liked it to give it a season 2. And there's just no way in the world that could happen. I mean, look, I'll be honest.
Me.
I was really shocked. I mean, I remember saying that I would like, and I think this is probably something that we talked about a little bit during the final episode of, the last season when we did our review of that one. And I remember thinking, a season 2, because we were talking about, do we expect a season 2? Do we even want one? And I remember thinking that it would be interesting to explore this kind of storytelling a little bit more. But there was a bunch of things that we said needed to happen in order for it to, one, survive beyond season 2, and then also maybe something that would appeal to the fandom. And I think so far, they've actually done that. In my opinion, they've fixed a lot of the things that were wrong with season 1.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that, as we've seen in this, at least this has more context in more of the episodes. At least it seems like that was I don't know if that was a conscientious thing on Disney's part, like, hey guys, do what you want, make sure we can follow the story, or is that just how they naturally would tell the story anyway?
Yeah, the nature of just the studios that are involved.
Right. And then the different types of studios, like I said, they're not all like Japanese based or anything. Like, you
I was going to say that too. Yep.
A wide variety of different nationalities or geographical demographics, creating these stories. So I'm enjoying that too.
Yeah, that's why I wish I had, that was really my fault, honestly. If you guys have more information, leave it in the comments section, or you can still chat it, because this is going to be a premiere. And it was fun to actually talk a little bit into Friday's chat, by the way. I did get to participate in that. I ended up watching pretty much the whole show and chatting for most of that. So that was cool. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do that with this show. I mean, I guess you'll see if you see my name popping up, but it was fun and it was cool. So let us know with this animation studio, like what they're about, what their country of origin is, that kind of thing, because I think that is a key thing. Now, this one felt more like traditional Japanese anime to me than the last few. And, again, it was strong. Now, I guess it's probably my turn to rate the thing. I'm probably just going to give it like a 6. I mean, because a 5 to me would almost be like kind of a straight down the middle. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. But I will give it a little bit above that, only because I like the concept of you have this group of people, this organization, who are strictly keeping records and not getting involved. I mean, there's a lot of storytelling you could do with something like this. And it's also something that, while it's a very new concept in the Star Wars universe, it's also a very Star Wars-ish thing to have. So it's a really hard thing to do, being that Star Wars is so well defined nowadays. So that's probably where I'm going to put this thing. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what the rest of the season is going to be like. I mean, we only have like 4 more episodes, which I'm sure, you're like, think about it, man. By the end of July, we'll be done with this.
By the end of July, I'll be drunk.
Or sooner, actually, because let's see, this one's on the 5th. So yeah, 4 more. Yeah, like beginning-ish of July. So yeah, by like mid-July, we should be on to something else. Because again, we got to finish the Bad Batch. We still have like 3 or 4 more episodes, or actually more than that probably, to do for that show. And then, Ahsoka's going to be on us pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
So we'll be looking forward to that. The question is, not us, of course, it's always you guys. What did you think of this episode of Visions? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you like it? What didn't you like about it? Do you want to see Visions continue? I mean, that's another thing. And I'm sure when we review episode 9, that's going to be one of the big things we're going to talk about too, is what we would look for in a possible season 3 of the show. Which you'll probably look for no season 3 of the show, but yeah. We'll have to see. I mean, myself, last year I thought it was a weird anomaly. I'm like, I mean, I like it. I give it some credit. I didn't love it. This year, though, I'm a little bit more invested in it. Last year, if we weren't reviewing it, I don't know if I would have even finished it. And that's me.
Right.
I know you wouldn't have, but I mean...
Well, that's why I watched it all at once. I was like, get it out the way.
yeah, that is a good point. But I do think that it benefits a little bit by the fact that you're also watching it one episode at a time.
Yeah.
Because there is the risk of, when you see it in the totality, it might actually affect how you feel about some of these episodes. So I think that actually helps. So leave your comment in the comment section. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode of Visions. And Friday, again, it's another pre-record show. And did we talk about what we were talking about? I like ask this every show. Every show.
Friday.
Okay.
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
I have some thoughts, but not.
All right. Well, by Wednesday or Thursday, be watching our channel, though, because we'll probably have it up. Or at least maybe, we'll let you guys know. Yeah. And then, of course, check out the buymeacoffee.com thing to where you can give us tips. You can actually be part of we got different packages and all kinds of things that you get, additional videos, t-shirts, stuff like that. So special Facebook group. So we're trying to build that out a little bit too for our core community. So the more the merrier on that one. All right. Well, I guess then until Friday, we'll just have to see what else happens in the world of Star Wars. Just as an aside, it's kind of Star Wars related. It's kind of sad, but it's also kind of bewildering. The Natalie Portman's husband cheated on her with some 25-year-old apparently.
Wow.
I know. I was really surprised. I'm like, really? Why?
Well, this is how marriage dies.
Yeah, all the things. But, as is no surprise, everybody's commenting the guy's nuts, he's horrible, that's what happened, she's aged out, that kind of thing. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But once again, like I said, you never actually know what's going to pop up that's Star Wars related or anything like that. So check us out Friday night at 8. And until then, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.